Hi, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Silent Hill 2 on the Silent Hill HD collection. This is also available on the Xbox 360. I don't normally tell you to do this when it comes to multi-platform games, but this is one of those games that are multi-platform that you're going to want to get for the PlayStation 3. And the reason that is that when this game first came out, believe it or not, a product from Konami, came out, even though this was during a time, of course I can't ever say anything without backtracking. During this time, Konami was doing alright as far as a company goes, but when this was released, which a third-party developer actually worked on these HD ports, there was a lot of glitches and issues, mostly with sound, syncing with the voices. Sometimes when you would save, the frame rate would get really weird and go like 3 frames per second type of deal where the game was unplayable until you restarted, and there was just certain things that just messed up the game. Well, they patched the PlayStation 3 version, but Konami straight out said they're not going to patch the Xbox 360 version, so to this day the Xbox 360 version continues to be broken, which is really fucked up if you think about it, considering this was around $50 I believe when it first came out. This was not a discounted remaster. Now these are probably, at least in my opinion, and based on what I've read and seen on YouTube, a lot of other people's opinions of the best Silent Hill games that come out, which it contains Silent Hill 2 and 3, even though it's called the collection and doesn't have 1 or 4. But it's acceptable to get 2 decent HD remasters of the game are great. I think the sound is still a little bit off. This also has new voices in it. Troy Baker and Laura Bailey are an option you can get. I'm not sure if the Xbox 360 had the options and might have gave you the new voices by default, because there's only so much space you can fit on a DVD. As far as Silent Hill 3, I don't know if those are new voices or the old voices. I can't tell you, but I don't remember having an option when I played the HD version that you'll see. If you're curious, I did record the original PlayStation 2 versions of Silent Hill 2 and 3 on my channel, so you can go back and watch those videos to tell the differences. There are differences in the graphics. One of the things that you'll notice on the PlayStation 2 version is that the fog is a lot thicker in scenes like this, and it's layered too. It's weird that it's so thin here, because the PlayStation 3 was and the Xbox 360 was a much more powerful system. And it's even weirder that the Xbox 360 version is the one that needed patching as well, because that should have been the easier platform to program for, especially for Silent Hill 3, which did have a PC port, which these are probably based off of. A lot of times when you get HD remasters, if there was a PC port, that's going to be the version they were based off of. Now, since these are on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, by the way, forget the Xbox 360 version exists. Seriously, if you got to deal with those problems and you really want to play these games, you might be able to play them on either a regular PlayStation 2 for fairly cheap, because I don't think these games are expensive at all. I know Silent Hill 3 is on the PC, but it's rare. But I know there's a way. But from the issues I heard, that's in the unpatched version of the HD collection, I don't think it's worth it. My opinion, but it's up to you. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. Just don't get angry if you were warned and you get the fucky version anyway, and then you're screwed. And I'm not trying to be a console fanboy, because I very much enjoy my Xbox 360, and there's a lot of ports on the Xbox 360, especially with multi-platform ports, that are better than the PlayStation 3 version, because the PlayStation 3 version is harder to program for and usually is a second thought when it comes to multi-platforming multi-platform games. So some people do prefer the PlayStation 2 versions of these games due to its lower quality definition. I don't know what this is going to look at like on YouTube. It might look like the PlayStation 2 version, but people like the lower quality picture of the PlayStation 2 game because if you notice there's film grain. It being on YouTube, I don't know if the game's going to be sharp enough on YouTube to be able to show the film grain or not. I don't know, but the film grain's there. This is the first game I ever saw film grain utilized in a way to make it look like an old, like 1980s VHS tape. And when I originally played this game on the PlayStation 2, I was at the age where I was allowed to, this is embarrassing, I was allowed to watch R-rated movies finally, and unrated movies, which are basically like X-rated movies that don't want to get an R rating, not pornography, but when you have a certain amount of violence. For instance, if Dawn of the Dead and Evil Dead 2 and Day of the Dead came out and were rated, they probably would have been rated X or NC-17 to give you a good idea. Around this time, I was getting really into like cult B movie, underground horror movies, Italian horror, etc., etc. So to have this game try to create the visual fidelity of some of those old VHS tapes of these incredibly sometimes creepy or gory horror movies were absolutely fantastic, and it really felt like a game that was made for people like me who really enjoyed those types of films. This game in particular, but I think all of the Silent Hill games take a little cue from the film Jacob's Ladder, but I think this one takes a lot from Jacob's Ladder, and it's a very Jacob's Ladder like psychological story. The fog seems heavier now. I don't know whether they changed the graphics on purpose a little bit. I did pick the new voices on here just so it would be even more different than the PS2 version that I covered. I think I recorded off of a backwards compatible PlayStation 3, so PlayStation 2 vibe on the older video that I did. I don't know if it's going to be their full 100%. This is what your save points look like. But there's also save points on the wall. It's usually when you find like this little red sheet. So this story is standalone, so you don't need to play Silent Hill 1 or 3 to really get the whole story. When it comes to Silent Hill 3, you really want to play Silent Hill 1, and then the other Silent Hill games that come after this are standalone as well. At least as far as I know, the only thing they have in common is really the town and the fog and stuff like that. I really like this game a lot. This is probably, I don't know how to explain it, but this game is probably the most emotionally disturbed. It's weird for me to say that. It's not a particularly scary game. It's just a game where you sort of feel, and this is awesome in one way, and it sounds horrible. Why would you play something that kind of makes you feel kind of depressed and kind of down in the dumps a little bit because it's so dark? But in a way, it's like an artistic masterpiece because like it's art that's able to, at least for me, able to convey a lot of like these deep feelings of like dread and stuff like that. The atmosphere, the music, everything's on point. With the newer voice acting, the lip syncing isn't 100% because when they originally made this game, they lip synced animated the lip syncing to fit the other actors, and since you have two different choices, I guess they didn't have enough time, or maybe they just didn't bother and thought that you'd be okay with it. I don't know. But the lip syncing's off. The acting is better in this. Laura Bailey, who you might know as Rizé from Persona 5, Trunks from Dragon Ball Z, if you like Dragon Ball Z. I know a lot of people like Dragon Ball Z. I don't watch it religiously. I've seen a few episodes. Not that I'd be guilty if I do. I own a couple of like the DVDs or whatever, but I never really got hardcore into it. But I know that that's one of the things you might remember her from. And she also was Fetch from Infamous, Second Son, and First Light, as well as many other things. She's in like almost every other game, just like Troy Baker. They're actually the two do the voices of the two main protagonists in the Borderlands Telltale game, which I actually have. I haven't even started to play yet. I was gonna play it after I finished Life is Strange, but I was sort of adventure gamed out and wanted to play an open world 3D game, so I figured I'd finish Mad Max and then go back to the adventure game. Plus, Mad Max was on my back catalog for longer, but I'm sure that game's amazing. And then Troy Baker's in just about everything. His, I believe his first role as a main character was actually Matt Baker in the amazing, my favorite World War II series, Brothers in Arms. And Gearbox, what are you doing? Get on that. Forget about what the hell is the game that they're making now? Battleborn, which feels like an off-brand what was it, Overwatch, which is really fun, by the way. I haven't bought it. If I get it, since it's an online only game or whatever, and they're constantly updating it, and Blizzard supports their games forever, I figured I'll wait till it's lower price and they have a lot more characters and stuff like that, because it's a game that I'm probably not going to play religiously. I still gotta finish their Diablo, by the way, which is also an excellent game. I have the PS4 version. I traded the PS3 version in for, which I should do another video. One thing that sucks about my recorder, though, even though it's super convenient, is that it doesn't record 60 frames per second, so I don't know how much better it's going to look than the PlayStation 3 version on YouTube. Hopefully it'll look better, though, whenever I get to it. I'm not trying to promise you anything. Now, the fog is disorienting, and you have to use your map a lot. And you might notice I'm not talking about this game a lot because maybe I didn't know, knowing how ADD I am. But I feel like I've probably talked a lot about this game in the last video. Although I should have did my research and check. I really like that fog with the... Gosh, I can't think what the hell they're called right now. Like the little shoots coming out of the water. We'll call them shoots right now. See, if I stopped the video and I wasn't recording, I probably could tell you exactly what they are, but, I have like this stress of like I have like my report that I worked on and I have to read it in front of class. I used to take these creative writing classes, and I would be so stoked to read it in front of everybody. Like, I was stoked to share info about this game and how much I like it and stuff like that. I envisioned me talking about it and not stuttering and being super stoked and excited to share this with you, where you would run out and want to play it, and then I get on the fucking mic and then I can't talk, and I just sound like I got a fucking bunch of marbles in my mouth, and I apologize. And I want you guys to like my video and subscribe, not because I'm making any money out of it, but it makes me feel like I'm doing a good thing, and I guess it's reassurance of that, especially when you comment and leave positive things. I'm not begging for anything. I'm just saying that when you guys do that, it means a lot. And I just always think my videos are gonna turn out way better than sometimes I guess they do. And sometimes people don't watch my videos because they're not into the games, and I'm not a popular channel. And sometimes seems like the vlog videos work better, but some days I just don't feel confident about recording myself. I don't know, it's an insecurity thing. I got a lot of those. I think we all do, or at least some of us do. There's some people that are very into themselves that would probably record themselves without thinking twice about it, but I'm not that person. So, and I don't know if you could tell, stuttering, it's there's a lot going on in life. I'm not trying to get all into my personal shit, but it's made me sort of anxious, which, even though these videos are sort of difficult to make or whatever, they make me feel better, and I feel accomplished after I make them, and I'm excited about sharing games that I'm really into, even if I'm stuttering and not doing the best job. This area right here, I recently went to New York to spread my grandmother's ashes in Long Island, and on the way back home, we stopped in New York City, and I swear it felt like almost 40% of the buildings were under construction, and there were areas like that, and they smelled like piss so bad. And but I was so thankful for them because it was like pouring down rain every once in a while, like a fucking typhoon. It was crazy. But you were just never so excited to smell hobo pee, I swear. New York's an interesting city. It's kind of like Silent Hill. It's a pretty big area. Of course, there's more people there, but I don't know. Even though there's a lot of people, there's this weird feeling. Maybe it's haunted or something. I don't know. There's this weird feeling of like isolation that I've never really felt before in any other city. And it's a really cool city to visit and stuff like that. But I feel like if you ever want to live there, if you can afford to live there, you'd probably want to know some people and have some friends, because I think being in an area that big with that many people that don't even look at you or give a shit about you for the most part, especially with all the tourists, like most of the people aren't even from around there. I can picture that being an extremely lonely, depressing place with a depressing atmosphere that probably could get to somebody fairly quickly. Man, maybe just watching this game is making me think about dark things, but I don't know. I know, like, living in a smaller city, it can be lonely sometimes, and you know what? People are friendly here, and since there's not a lot of tourists, you still start to see the same people every day. But it's like New York, it's just, unless you have like your own clique or whatever, I just could see it being a pretty, taking a toll on one's emotions and shit like that. Like me not living there, and I was with my father, which maybe isn't always the greatest travel companion, but at least I knew him, and I just had like these overwhelming feelings of like loneliness. And like I'm saying, like I don't know what you believe or whatever, and I try to keep an open mind about things, but I swear maybe the area is haunted or something. I'm feeling like spirits from the past, especially the fucking subway, man. Like that fucking place. That place feels really lonely. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like a feeling of dread or disgust, and I didn't feel scared at all, and I thought it was a cool city and unique things, and it seems like an awesome place if you know where you're going and all this stuff, but there's just this underlying sadness a little bit. I can't really explain. I wasn't in the real huge touristy areas. I spent a lot of time in Chinatown and Brooklyn and stuff like that. We went to where the some of the popular areas were, like Wall Street and part of Broadway, and like you saw where the Twin Towers were and stuff like that. But the parts where you felt it the most were like the less touristy parts, and I don't know, like living along that city, it just felt like people are coming and going, and I just couldn't imagine living there if you didn't know anybody. But yeah, this scene right here looks like it's straight out of from Jacob's Ladder with that little stuttery like view. You can play this game as an action game. Of course, you'll have some boss fights that you'll be forced into, but for the most part, you can actually run away from the enemies by turning off your light and actually walking around them which is kind of cool. It's also cool that you have a puzzle option. You saw me earlier change the control scheme. I don't know why they call it the Resident Evil tank controls 3D controls, but I would suggest switching it to 2D, which makes it like a regular 3D game. It does get confusing sometimes when the camera angle abruptly switches, but you know, I'd rather have that than fucking trying to control a human being like a tank. But yeah, this is an awesome game, an awesome atmosphere. You definitely don't want to play this game if you're sensitive to things like depression and stuff like that when you're in a depressed mode. But if you're in a fairly decent mode and want to play a good puzzle game with a lot of atmosphere and an interesting story, and you really like older horror movies, especially psychological ones like Jacob's Ladder and stuff like that, are Dario Argento films, things in that nature that aren't always about monsters 24/7 or zombies or whatever, I would definitely give this a try. I also think the soundtrack's amazing, the sound design's amazing. It really messes with your emotions, and it's not in a scary way. There's just this feeling of dread that this game can create that I really respect. Any art form that can grab you and manipulate your emotions like intentionally is pretty awesome. But like I said, you want to play this game when you're in a good place, because I could see this game putting you in a bad place kind of fast, or exaggerate whatever negative emotions you're feeling. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching this HD version. Remember to skip the Xbox 360 version. I hope you're doing all well. Take care. This is the PlayStation 3 version if you want to check it out. Remember, that's the patch version. There's no patch for the 360. Take care. Thank you so much, and bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.